team a lot of people would have liked at this time of year. Were they playing in this tournament, of course, is Louisville. Our basketball power index had them ranked the 8th best team in the country when the season came to an end. But for reasons we are well aware of, they are not playing in the tournament. Joining us now via Skype is their head coach, Rick Pitino, who's back with us. There's the shot. Rick, good morning on Mike and Mike. It's good to see you. How are you?
Good morning.
A pleasure to have you on. And the last time we talked with you was shortly after the decision was made that your team would not be playing. And you said that it tore your heart out. Now that we have actually arrived at the beginning of the NCAA tournament, what are your emotions as the dance gets underway, if you will, and you're not a part of it?
Well, we started this thing back in the summertime. We came off a Sweet 16, a Final Four, a national championship, and then a layup away from another Final Four in the last 4 years. This year, we wanted to be ready, so I coached the Puerto Rican national team, and in late July, early August, I was running triple sessions, twice with our guys. Then in between, I'd coach the Puerto Rican national team. We all flew on the plane to Puerto Rico, and without question, I thought we had something special of a basketball team when we left Puerto Rico. And our goal was obviously the goal of most of these teams that you just picked was to get to a Final Four, and we had an incredible attitude, a great run, and certainly I thought we were capable of doing some really nice things come tournament time, and then obviously it was taken away, and we had to adjust from that. But I was really pleased because two of our seniors came out on senior night and said it's a really, really difficult thing to swallow, but in light of all of that, we still would have chose Louisville because of the experience that we got. So that made me real happy.
As far, the play-in games tonight, the first round on Thursday, the juices start to get going as the tournament gets going. So now we're at this point. Is there regret on your part at the way the school handled this to take your team out of the NCAA tournament and not let these guys have a chance?
Well, it's really what the NCAA likes to see. They would like to see the school self-impose rather than it get to them. There's a number of things that they do. If I make a comment, the enforcement committee will come and say, you can't say that. I said, well, why not? Because until everybody's investigated, you cannot make any statements. So it's very difficult because it goes on for a long time, and you really have to follow their lead of what they want you to do. I think I've said it many times. I think the system is broken. I think there must be a better way to do all these things in penalizing athletic staff, coaches, and not kids. But it is a bitter pill to swallow. March Madness is my favorite time of year. I just had a nice text from Tom Izzo and said it doesn't feel the same without you being here. And it's something that we're going to live with and we're going to be disappointed in, but we're going to root for some of these other teams that we play against.
Rick Pitino is with us, and we definitely want to have you go through some of them, particularly the ones that you know well from having coached this season in the ACC, but a couple of other issues to get to quickly before that. You were very outspoken right after your final game of the season, talking about, in strong words, about the things that you know about the events that led up to things. What do you know now about the investigation and the events that led up to all of this that made you come out so strongly after the season was over?
Well, I know very little now, and I knew very little then. There are a few things. Mike, let me ask you a question. You played football at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Who was your coach then?
Jerry Faust.
For all 4 years?
Yes, all 4 of my years, yes.
Now, he was a very spiritual man, from what I remember, correct?
Yes, yes, he was.
Did you live in a dormitory for 4 years?
I lived in a dorm all 4 years.
Okay. How many times did Jerry visit you at your dorm room?
Jerry never visited me once in my dorm room.
Okay, I've now polled 40 different athletes from different sports, and not one time did a head coach go to a dorm room. And I, same way with Jack Lehman and my teammates Julius Erving and Al Skinner. That being said, I did visit Minotti Hall for a number of reasons. I named it after my brother-in-law, who I lost in 9/11, and we had filmed there right before games. And then also we would have a breakfast with a recruit would come in. We'd have breakfast with his family sometimes in Minotti Hall. So I would say before games and a couple times a month I'd have breakfast. And during those times I saw nothing unusual. Matter of fact, I didn't even see any female. Females are allowed in there. Girlfriends are allowed to visit. Sisters are allowed to visit. I never saw anything. So the chances of a coach seeing anything, if something was going on 4 or 5 times a year, would be minimal. Now, that's all I know about the situation. The thing that is deeply disturbing me about it all, because it took away so many dreams of so many of our fans, administration, us, We are the number one revenue producer in college basketball for 15 straight years, according to Forbes. We are the number one watched community in all of college basketball. Louisville, the city of Louisville, has the highest ratings for college basketball. All those people, all those great fans, all our players are terribly hurt. And the thing that hurts the most is we keep asking the question, why? Why was this done? And that's what really eats up at all of us. Because there's no coach in college basketball, no head coach in college basketball, so I'm not going to patronize myself because it's normal, that would hear of this type of behavior and then immediately not fire anybody who was involved or discipline anybody who was involved. And how it didn't get back to anybody at any time is mind-boggling to me. So we're going to let the NCAA fully investigate, and hopefully they come up with the right answers, because it's puzzling to a lot of us.
The one thing I will say, Rick, you asked me if Jerry Faust, my coach, had ever been in my dorm, and no, he had not. But one thing that does happen, and I'm sure you know this as well, and now football has a bigger number of players than basketball, is there are people on the staff under Jerry Faust that their job is to know what's going on. And now with the report that there were 3 recruits who told the NCAA about the parties and about the money. So if something happened there, that while Jerry Faust was never in my dorm, if something like this happened in a dorm, that some of the people on the staff would find out about this or know about this. So that's the part of it I think a lot of people are wondering, Rick, is while you may not have been there and seen anything, but you have people that keep an eye on people, so to speak, and that this would somehow get to you.
Well, you're right, Mike, 100%. You have your dorm security people who are being interviewed by the NCAA. Then you have your graduate assistants. One guy, unfortunate one, was Andre McGee, whose sole responsibility was to make sure the kids get to school on time, make sure they get up in the mornings when they have some type of presentation, or they have a breakfast with the head coach and his family. So, and then we have another graduate assistant. So the problem we had is we did have people in place, and the one person that we did have in place was sole responsibility was to make sure they do the right things, and unfortunately that was Andre McGee. So that was the problem there.
The last time we spoke to you, you said that you had sent him a text and that he had sort of cut off communication. OTL found him. He seems to be an Uber driver right now. Have you, since we last chatted with you, had any opportunity to speak to Andre, hear anything from him at all?
When this first broke, guys, I went to my nephews, went to all my managers, assistant coaches. I became so paranoid about this, as how could this happen? And I went to everybody, and then I was told immediately by the enforcement committee to stop it. That's their job to investigate, not my job. And I immediately stopped talking to security people. I wanted to look at cameras. I talked to managers. I talked to my nephews, and they told me to stop it. It comes across in their minds as potentially intimidating witnesses. And obviously that's not what I was trying to do. I was just asking the question, did you ever see anybody come through here? Did you ever notice anything? Did you ever notice any older people come through here? And I was told immediately not to make any phone calls to Andre, immediately to stop asking security, immediately to stop asking managers, that it's their responsibility to investigate. I had to shut it all down.
Rick, we know you're going to, I believe, meet with the NCAA next month, and a lot of the questions that are coming up is not only about the situation, but about these, and the term that's used, stacks of money that McGee had and was giving to these ladies or to the players to give to the ladies. And inevitably, I'm sure that's going to be a question to you, Rick, Coach, where does that money come from? And McGee, as a GA, isn't going to have stacks of money, so where could he have possibly gotten that money?
As director of operations, he was making good money. As a graduate assistant, he was getting very little money. Now, you hear things from, they all had dollar bills handed out, and they knew those types of things. If money was paid for things other than a strip party per se, then a lot of people are in some serious criminal trouble. And that's something that the Commonwealth Attorney and the investigators are going to have to handle if money has changed hands for those type things. So that's one of the reasons why Andre McGee doesn't speak. Andre McGee right now is being told by his lawyer, do not speak, because if you get indicted, there's going to be a problem. And right now, this other lady is speaking constantly, and And you do not want to get indicted in this type of situation because the maximum sentences are very, very large, and that's why nobody can speak with Andre.
Mike and Mike, Rick Pitino is with us. We'll get to the basketball in 1 second. One final question. What can you tell us about what you are prepared to say to the NCAA when they finally meet with you next month?
Well, I'm going to tell them that, and it'll sound a little bizarre to them, that I've been a believer in these rules for over 30 years. As a matter of fact, people call me a little bit of a micromanager in terms of, we've had the highest GPA now in 3 different conferences every year. We get after our guys academically to not only go to class, to not only represent themselves well, to then make sure they're tutored the right ways, but they hand in their assignments the right way. No electronics on them at any point. We run an extremely disciplined program, so there's a tremendous contradiction of this going on. And to say it breaks my heart would be putting it mildly, because none of us in the administration, none of us in coaches, none of us could possibly wonder why. If I could just get Andre McGee in a room for 10 minutes, I would say to him, why would you do this? What purpose did it serve? We didn't need this to get recruited. We're not Kentucky where we're recruiting the one and dones. We're recruiting the Russ Smiths of the world. He's a 2-star athlete who becomes a first-team college All-American. Gorky Zhang, starting for the Minnesota Timberwolves, wasn't ranked in the top 75. Terry Rozier's playing for the Boston Celtics, wasn't ranked in the top 60. I had a young man in Kentucky, Nazir Mohammed, wasn't ranked in the top 1,000. So, and he's still playing for the Oklahoma Thunder. So we have a different way we recruit, and it didn't make any sense what was going on. How these women infiltrated our program is very disturbing to me, and how Andre McGee, or I should say not how, but why did Andre McGee get tied into this? And only Andre can make those answers, and that someday I want him to do that. The last text I sent to him was, Andre, I asked for one thing, and that's for you to be honest and tell the truth.
Rick Pitino was with us, the head coach of Louisville. It's obviously a complicated transition to go from that to basketball, but let's do it because obviously you know a lot of the teams and the players and all of that in this tournament, in this field, extraordinarily well. Let's start with a general question. Yesterday was all about coaches complaining about seeding, those who got in and didn't get in, basically suggesting that the selection committee provides a moving target. Every single year they seem to change their criteria of what they're looking for. This year they talked a lot about top 50 wins. In previous years it's been different things. Is that your experience, and do you think that there is a solution to that if you think it's a problem, that there doesn't seem to be a set criteria that coaches are shooting for when their seasons begin?
The one thing, one time I was positive we were getting a 3 seed. We wound up getting a 5 seed, and I couldn't believe it and walked out and was very upset. We've also been the number 1 of number 1 seeds. But what I learned later on in life, hey, let's just figure out who we're playing, where we're going, make our arrangements, and I don't care. Sometimes we were sent out to Portland and Seattle the year we went out to the Final Four, and we didn't have a great following. We had a great time. Sometimes the pressure of your fans can even make it more difficult. We got away from it. We were totally focused. So I I don't want to hear too many complaints. We're in the NCAA. South Carolina's not in there, and they got a lot of wins, and so does St. Mary's. So they're the ones should feel bad, not the ones that are in.
How do you, so now you're in, how do you look at your first 2 games? How are those broken down? Take us inside a little bit as to the workings of the first weekend.
Well, the first thing you do is you break it down into 4 different areas. You break it down to defense, you break it down to their pressure on defense, and then you look at the offense, where you can score against them, where are they weak, where can you get them in foul trouble. And then you start breaking down their out-of-bounds plays, and I've always believed, everybody always says this, that defense and rebounding wins come NCAA time. And they're 100% right. Defense and rebounding plays a large role. I always think there's something missing that nobody ever mentions. I believe that passing is one of the major keys to moving on in the NCAA tournament. The reason passing, you're so well scouted this time of year. They've got every film on you. They know whether you go 78% off your right shoulder, if they know you go 32% off your left shoulder. So everything's broken down. So passing is the key. If you can get into the paint and make a pass to the perimeter for a 3, or a bounce pass or a lob up top to get you a dunk, I always feel passing leads to greater shots, shooting a higher percentage, and then makes your defense better because you feel better about yourself when you're shooting a higher percentage. So I always emphasize passing as well as defense and rebounding.
Talk about some of the teams you know well. Mike and Rick Pitino, you're coaching in the ACC this year, so you know Carolina. I just picked them to win the national championship. And Seth Greenberg on our set said, are they going to defend for 3 weekends in a row? I watched the way they did against Virginia on Saturday night, and when they play defense like that, they're going to be very tough to beat. Give us the scouting report on Carolina.
Well, they'll hit you with a lot of blitzing-type defenses, using a football term. They'll come after you, blitz you, and then everybody's coming at you. They're trapping you on the side. They're trapping you in the middle, and they do a lot of things. But once you get by those initial traps, there are a lot of openings against them. They'll get up in the passing lanes on the wings and deny the basketball. And once you hit the right high post area, you'll be able to get a back door. They're extremely well coached. And Roy is a great guy. And I think you're going to find a coach that's been there to go to a Final Four. I don't think it's going to be anybody, although I have one sleeper pick. I'm very bullish on Virginia as well. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the bright young stars in our game today. If there's one star in our game right now who's going to outlive all of us and then become our age, it's going to be Tony Bennett. He's the young bright star in our game.
I'm not sure it counts as a sleeper when they're a one seed.
Yeah, they are a one seed. So well, let me ask you.
I have a sleeper. It's not Kansas.
Oh, who's your sleeper? Who's your sleeper?
My sleeper, and this is difficult for me because I'm rooting against them in the first game. I'm rooting against them because my good friend and ex-assistant Mick Cronin is playing them, and I'm hoping Mick can win. But I think St. Joe's is a big sleeper in the tournament.
What do you like? Phil Martelli's team, obviously. What do you like about St. Joe's?
I watched them play, and I think they can hurt you a number of different ways. They're like a Seton Hall. They're not a fun team to play against. They can bother you so many different ways. Watching St. Joe's, Dayton, Seton Hall, they can do a lot of different things, and they got tough kids. They play really hard.
Okay, so that would be interesting. They play Cincinnati.
Maybe match up against Oregon.
And then they would get the one seed Oregon in round two.
Rick, who's the best team you played all year?
Well, we played Michigan State at Michigan State. We played Kentucky at Kentucky. We played Duke in Carolina. We played Virginia twice. So I think that the team that we haven't played well against, we beat Duke and Carolina, has been Virginia. Because their defense is really good. Their offense is really good. They got great experience, and they shoot the ball right. But with Virginia, you can stay in the game. It's tough to beat them at the end because they do all the right things. I would say when we played Carolina, I wouldn't have said they're the best team. But right now, it's got to be either Carolina, Kansas, or Michigan State playing the best basketball. Now, Kentucky's got the best backcourt in the nation. And with Tyler Ulis and Murray, anything can happen for them in a good way.
Speaking of Kentucky, we got to play what Calipari said the other day because everyone wants your reaction to it. Anytime he says anything, they want to know what you think of it. So this was John Calipari on our selection special on ESPN talking about how he didn't like where his team got sent and the matchups they will face. Here was Calipari.
It's like they already picked the thing before we played. And if they had a bunch of things, like we had 6 different, really? You had 6 different, none of them had us at a 3 seed? Like maybe we were going to win the game? Look, at the end of the day, they're not stealing my joy, that little group of 10 who says this year it's top 50 wins. Last year it was road wins. 2 years ago it was RPI. It's a moving target. Instead of making it, this is how we're going to rate these teams.
Okay, that obviously isn't the soundbite in which he said he thought they were going to bring Louisville back and have to play them. So that's what everyone wanted your reaction to, Rick.
Well, I've known John since he's been 15 years of age, and ever since he's got into coaching, that's his MO. He tries to make the world being against him. He does the same thing that John Thompson did at Georgetown. The world's against us. He'll probably, wherever he's going, move 30 miles out of town because the hotel's not good enough. Nothing's ever good enough. The world's against us. And he gets to his players and says, see, we should be seated much higher. Matter of fact, how dare they put Kansas number 1 of number 1 seeds? It should be Kentucky. And he'll have all those guys fired up. He did that great at UMass. It's sort of difficult for him to buy into that act at Kentucky, but he's still trying to do it.
Rick, we very much appreciate always the time and the candor. We know this has been a difficult time for you. We look forward to following this as it continues, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much. Enjoy the tournament to whatever degree you can.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Take care.